I am starting technically 30 seconds early because Ben said it's time. Ben, I want you to know how much power you have over the lives, especially because you made it this week. Good to see Ben here, and I especially love when members jump in on the Friday live because and when they have an email sitting in my inbox that I have yet to reply to. So Ben, I did switch your photo on unboringwedding.com/certified. Let's just get this out of the way here. Good to see all of you here. And Ben, I am replying to your email right now uh, over the live that I switched your photo out. Everybody go check it out. Unboringwedding.com/certified. Ben is one of our certified members, of course, who is rocking it in North Dakota, 1 hour from Canada, as he said. And he has taken Academy and he has taken Pro and he did all the challenges and he is just slaying. And so he has his badges and he's up on the website. Ben, good to see you here. Glad you could make it on a Friday. I wonder what's going on. Is that you taking an extra long weekend? It is. Thanks. Of course, you're not American. You're American. You're not Canadian. It is Thanksgiving long weekend here in Canada, which means we have Monday off. I know in the States your Thanksgiving is much later, but we have to have it earlier up here because everything's drying up and dying or going into hibernation or whatever. We can't do a harvest in November. It's already frozen, probably in North Dakota too. So great to see so many people here jumping in. Of course, way at the beginning, like half an hour early, I did say Coulter won. He just commented wedding, and you win for being here so early. But of course, Red is here, Ben's here, Nina's here, Christina's here. Oh, I missed you, Nina. Sorry, when I was saying hello to all the early comers. Elaine and Suzanne are both here from the UK. Jane and I don't want to skip anybody. JBL is Sandra is in a car wash, which is awesome. Sandra's not going to let a car wash come between her and Friday Live. So super happy to see you guys. Keith is here from Stittsville, which blows my mind because Stittsville is where I grew up. Keith, what's going on? I never thought I'd see Stittsville here on Friday Live when I am broadcasting to the world, but there's somebody everywhere. So I grew up in Fringewood Village in Stittsville when it used to be fields, and cow pastures, and barbed wire, and now there's malls and suburbs everywhere. But wow, Keith, so cool to see you here. I know you're a member as well. So many members of Unboring Wedding Academy and Pro here, and I just love that. Again, I'm so flattered by that because I feel like you guys already know all the things. You're super elite, but I love spending time with you on Fridays. Cantor Mark here, of course, SoCal representing. And the Beaver, yes. Give me an excuse, Mark, to explain what the Beaver is. Of course, that's the love story caster, ER, which is affectionately becoming known as the Beaver because people are spelling it with OR. And you know what? I'm fine with it. The Beaver is like the national animal of Canada. Technically, not really, but you know, it's on our nickel and stuff. And it's a big deal here. So yeah, the Love Story Caster is, of course, our tool, which is inside Unboring Wedding Academy. Last week, I got to talk about telling the love story, the only 3 questions you need to ask. So if you weren't here for that, jump back into my YouTube channel in the lives. You can watch the replays of all the lives in there, including all the shenanigans going on in the chat, which I absolutely love. Ask your couple 3 questions. In the Love Story Caster, you paste those answers in, and within 3 minutes, a fully written love story from those answers is delivered to your inbox. It is our secret, folks. I used it this week for the wedding I have this weekend, and it was absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to tell the story this week because I always love telling a love story, which culminates in the proposal when the bride, when the marrier, the grooms asks, "Will you marry me?" And that part of the story gets down on one knee, holds up the ring. I love when she says an expletive. That is just so, I can't wait for that part. So I'm obviously going to scan the crowd. That's not what today's live is about. But I'm going to make sure there's no smaller ones listening. If there are, I can't say it. I say F, but she did say the full what, get the F out of here or something. And I love when we get to this super romantic moment and I get to drop that bomb. But of course, if there's little children, I censor it a little bit. So good to see you here, man. There's so many of you. I can't even say it all. We've got Cleveland representing, and greetings from Texas. Oh my goodness, Buffalo. Jay Gates is here. Good to see you. First time here. Well, welcome. It's quite a party on Fridays. Brittany is here with Edwards Weddings. Mike from McKinney, Texas. Oh my gosh, and Keith is not only from Stittsville, but he's from Stitt Street. You're killing me here. This is amazing. It's one thing for somebody to say I'm from Ottawa, which is my hometown, but Stittsville, and then right in the heart of Stittsville, man, that is like 80s. You know, when you watch Stranger Things and you see those boys on bicycles in the 80s, that's Stittsville for me. There was no Upside Down as far as I know. But you know, kids, BMX bikes, the days before cell phones and the internet. That was Stittsville. Fariba's here from Virginia. Love it. Ralph is here. Is it Ralph or is it Karen? It could be either one. And thank you, Ben, for the Thanksgiving wishes. All right. Today, last week, like I said, was about the story and the love story caster. This week is a little bit more of a heavy topic, albeit one that is, as I said in the email out or the description, it's crucial for every single wedding ceremony, is when your couple has had a loved one, a very significant member of their family or friend or someone who might have otherwise been in the wedding party, maybe a grandparent, very recently pass away. And the question comes up a lot: should we mention them in the ceremony? If that's a yes, how do you mention them in the ceremony? And even rewinding before that, how do you bring that up with a couple? Do you wait for them to say anything if the case? How do you broach the topic with your couple when you're planning their ceremony? So I want to answer those questions today. Again, I feel like there's a lot of elite pros in the house who absolutely know this stuff. A lot of certified members of Unboring Wedding, people who have done Academy and Pro. But this is a great refresher. I think it is so important to be proactive about this and bring it up with your couple in the wedding ceremony planning session. So that is one thing that I want to talk about here. I do need to head out before it's 1:07 my time Atlantic. I need to head out before the bottom of the hour today because I have a wedding that's an hour and a half away. Of course, the wedding is tomorrow. I'm going to the rehearsal today. I was almost late for today. That's when I jumped in because FedEx just pulled up to my house with these cards for Wedding MBA. I'm going to be handing these out to wedding planners. I'm doing an expo for Unboring Wedding Academy on the floor in Vegas. If you don't know what Wedding MBA is, it is the largest wedding conference in North America. It's in Las Vegas. It's November 6th, 7th, 8th. I will be speaking in the Officiant room. I will be expoing on the floor with 225 other expo people, exhibitors at this point. And so FedEx just pulled up like 5 minutes before I started. And I was so excited to pull this out of the box and just, okay, here we are. I'm so excited. I'll be handing these out at Wedding MBA. So lots going on today here. But this is super important. And of course, I love Friday Live. So I'm just going to be popping in the chat every now and then to kind of see what the 50 plus of you are up to. I know, like I said, there's a lot of great advice in the chat. So if anybody wants to dive in there, again, there's some first-time people to live here. There's also, I'm sure, some first-time officiants here who maybe have one coming up, haven't even done this yet. So I love that. And last week, we had some great questions. So feel free to throw those questions in the chat. That is why I'm here. I don't anticipate today's topic to take long, but I have never been known to be short-winded about anything. And so we'll see how this goes. But I do love answering questions. Okay. And I see Sissy here saying, my groom has lost his mother, father, and recently a brother. That is that's tough. That is heartbreaking. And a lot of times in the wedding workshop, if you've listened to me talk about the process at all, you know that I talk about meeting with your couple, ideally in person, 4 to 6 weeks before the day, and going through every aspect of their wedding ceremony, brainstorming through with them. And when we get to this point, a lot of the time when we're talking about the ceremony, I will have a bride or groom uh, break down into tears in front of me, with me at the table. And that is a time where, again, we are, whether you're a religious minister, I don't want to load that word with too much religious meaning if you're not religious, but as the officiant, we can serve, minister in that way to people and just, and make sure that their loved one is remembered, mentioned, commemorated in the wedding ceremony on the wedding day. Because here's the truth, we are always celebrating and grieving something in this life. That's the human condition, right? Now, we might be focusing on or emphasizing or de-emphasizing or not focusing on one of those things more than the other. You don't want to go around spending your days grieving ones you've lost. Well, we've all lost somebody, and at the same time, there is so much to celebrate in this life, whether it's birthdays or holidays or just being well. That is the, I don't want to get too philosophical here today, but that mingling of celebrating and grieving, or being filled with joy and being filled with sadness, depending, we compartmentalize, right? That's how we kind of get through things, is we're compartmentalizing. Today is a day of celebration, so let's ignore, or I'm really grieving, and so maybe nothing feels good right now. A wedding kind of brings those things crashing together into juxtaposition. And I feel like this is where it's not good if we're in the habit of kind of denying or repressing. A wedding is not the time to compartmentalize the way we do. And what I mean by that is we're not, in pain and grieving all day long, although we might be. But it is, I say a lot about wedding ceremonies where when you name the thing that happened, it loses its power, whatever it is, something falling over or a dog barking that is disturbing the ceremony or whatever it is. When you just say it, it loses its power over us. There's something about naming that. And I don't mean this necessarily in a woo-woo way. I just mean in directing our attention to it, giving it a moment, and then saying, let's get back to the business at hand, the partying at hand, whatever it is. And so it's the same thing with the passing of a loved one. It is great to, I think, to mention the person who has passed away, or people, as Sissy mentioned, maybe it's more than one, maybe it's grandparents. I have a wedding coming up where they want to mention all their grandparents who they wish could be there today. And so let's start with kind of chronologically, where when and how do you bring this up? Well, 4 to 6 weeks before the day is when I like to have the wedding workshop. And as with so many of these Friday Lives, we talk about sitting down and leaving no stone unturned, talking about whatever the Friday Live topics have been, whether it's about microphones or processional or ring exchange or signing table or all those little things. We want to move through getting our couple's thoughts and opinions and preferences on those things. It's super crucial not to just leave it to assumption. There was there was a post in a Facebook group this week for wedding officiants that I'm a part of, where somebody said, I got to the wedding and I approached the DJ and said, hey, do you have a mic for me? And the DJ said, I'm not here for the ceremony. I've only been hired for the reception. And this officiant was kind of aghast at that, and kind of was asking the group, is this normal? And it's normal. I couldn't help but reply, it's normal if your couple hired the DJ just for the reception. The DJ is only there to serve in the scope that they agreed to serve in. So it happened to be, I guess, in the same space. The officiant assumed that the DJ who was there already, why wouldn't they just give me a microphone? I don't say that this officiant is at fault, but this is an example of, I would not want to leave anything up to assumption, which is why that is one of the 70 questions that I ask the couple in the wedding workshop 4 to 6 weeks before the day. Some of you are familiar with the fact that I literally wrote an entire book called Wedding Zero to Ceremony Hero. And essentially, this book walks you through that planning session. You can get this book on Amazon. And today's topic, at least in the hardcover version, is on page 63. For those of you following along, has a significant family member passed away who we would like to acknowledge? That is one of the questions in the wedding workshop. So, in the wedding workshop with the couple, I do move them through chronologically. And this is all inside Unboring Wedding Academy with the spreadsheet that I use. If you're a member of that, you know, you've seen this spreadsheet. You just make a copy and use it for all of your wedding workshops. And so once you move through the processional stuff, whether or not the officiant asks a question to the Mary who came down the aisle, all those details, you're at the part of the ceremony where I recommend is the best place to mention a loved one who has passed away. So that is the time in the wedding workshop, chronologically, I'd say halfway through, because so much of the conversation that we have with our couple is, give me all the people in your ceremony and what microphones, again, to what I just said about that officiant who maybe wasn't ready or made some assumptions. I asked them, what mic is going to be there? Who is bringing that mic? Here is the mic stuff. What processional? How are we lined up? Who's coming in when? For my opening remarks, photos or no photos. So you move through all that. And then once you get to the point in the ceremony and in the discussion, again, because typically we're having this conversation chronologically with our couple, and I'm moving through the spreadsheet chronologically. That's where I ask them, and I take a moment, I take a breath. I say, this is the part of the ceremony where I'm going to tell your love story. See last week's conversation for that, and what you love about each other and all that good stuff. I'm going to send you a questionnaire. But before I dive into that, I do want to ask you, and so this is kind of what I asked them, as I said in the book, has a significant member of your family or friends recently passed away who we would like to commemorate? So a couple of qualifiers there, because of course, as I said off the top, all of us have people who have passed away. So you might think, well, who should get mentioned and who shouldn't get mentioned? This is one of those features of a custom personalized wedding where you want to let your couple ultimately make that decision. And sometimes they ask me, who should we mention? And this is where I would recommend saying, well, a lot of the time it's the first qualifier might be, how recently has this person passed away? So in the last month, last calendar year, and this is kind of how I put it, how ubiquitous, how felt will their absence be? So how present will their absence be? How much will people be feeling that so-and-so is not here? Again, if this is a grandparent who's passed away 10 years ago, or an aunt who, we wish they were here, of course. But if there's no qualifier, you could spend a lot of time listing people. Like it's Veterans Day or something like that, or like a victim memorial. And that's not what most couples want. A lot of couples say, this is the paradox. Sometimes 2 weeks ago, I had a wedding where somebody super close passed away, and the bride said, I can't even mention it because I'm going to start crying and I'm probably not going to recover. So that was a case where I said, okay, are you sure? Because I really think that the family is going to wonder why this person was not mentioned. And that is why, friends, I ask this question where I do, and in terms of the chronology of the ceremony, before we get into the fun stuff of their story and the laughing and the romance and the elements, I like to do this first off in the ceremony. So right after the processional, maybe there's a question, maybe there wasn't, but the couple is standing in front of me, holding hands. I always do that engagement question. In the terms of engaging the guests, I say, well, here they are. Sam and Alex are here in front of us today to get married, and they're perfect for each other. Can I get an amen? And everybody will cheer and clap, and I love that moment. The couple laughs, the guests are cheering. Some great photos come out of that moment. I'm laughing at everybody's explosive response. So that is how I kind of get everybody participating again in the ceremony after the processional. But then I pause And that is where I mention, I'll tell you exactly what I say, but that's where I mention that loved one who has passed on. And that's where I say, if their absence is very conspicuous and people are going to be feeling it and might be wondering, how far into this ceremony are we going to get before the officiant mentions the person? So that's why I want to kind of clear the air, invoke the person, commemorate them, memorialize them in a very tasteful way. And I always ask the couple how much they want to do. Now, I don't know if it's just Canada, it might be different where you are, but most couples just ask for a very brief mention off the top, maybe 3 seconds of silence, and then moving on. Usually they have an empty chair for somebody significant who has passed away recently. A lot of time you'll go to a wedding, you'll see like a memorial table with photos of many family members who have passed away over the years. And so sometimes, as Kirsty mentioned here, on a totally different conversation recently, this could be a pet as well. And pets, to a lot of couples, feel like a child. If you're not a pet person or an animal person, you don't understand that at all. But it might come to the place where your couple says, yes, we had a pet pass away recently, and we'd like them mentioned off the top. And that is where, as wedding officiants, we facilitate and advise our couples based on our experience. If you have no experience and you're joining us today, that's fine. You have experience in the sense of you are engaging in the chat with so many incredible pros, and I'm talking to you here. So consider yourself at least trained in some kind of minimal sense, but I can say you've covered this topic now. And so that's where they're in front of me holding hands, get that big cheer. And I've advised my couple 4 to 6 weeks ago, and maybe they've told me, for example, my mother passed away, as was mentioned in the chat. Very, very. That's where usually a lot of grief. People want their parents, when they had a great relationship with them, at their ceremony, and this is typically very tragic. And so some couples will say, I don't think I'll be able to keep it together. Let's not do that. Again, we advise, we facilitate, but we also respect their wishes. My mantra for anything that a couple wants in the ceremony, even if I disagree with it, is it's your ceremony. It's not mine. It's the couple's ceremony. So we don't want to slap any veto cards down, no matter what it is. I gave you my hack about that before, about what to do if a couple doesn't want to. If your couple wants to do something you're not thrilled about, I always say the couple have asked me to, and then you do the thing. That's kind of like your way of saying, this wasn't my idea. So if your couple doesn't want to mention the loved one, it's likely that they will explain that. I don't feel like that's on me. Again, a couple weeks ago, I was quite surprised that this couple did not want to mention this person who everybody wished was there. But the couple said, it'll be way too emotional. I'll probably break down and I won't be able to recover. In that sense, that's where you respect that and say, all right. But if they say, let's go ahead. So I have a wedding coming up where, again, they want to mention all the grandparents. What I ask then is, what did you call your grandparents? So in the conversation, I'll say, I'll advise them again. It's somebody who's very close to you, or it's very recent, or both. Maybe they're very close to you, but it was 10 years ago, but they're so close to you, like a parent, that they should be mentioned, even if they passed 10 years ago. Maybe it was somebody who's not a family member, just a friend, but there was a tragic death 2 weeks ago, and everybody's thinking of them and knows they would have been at the wedding. Well, that should be mentioned. So that's kind of the parameters that I use to guide my couple and kind of in who should be mentioned. But it's ultimately up to them. And then, of course, I ask them, what did you call your grandparents? The grandparents thing, for example, I don't like to say, we are mindful of Alex's grandmother. If Alex always called her, called her Mammy or something like that, then I say we are mindful of Mammy, who we so wish could be here. So I find it's really tasteful, more personal. It sounds like it's happening on behalf of the couple a lot more when you use what they would have called the person. It just adds that human touch as opposed to kind of that distance. That's not what we want in that moment. And so What I do is in the ceremony, here's a script for you. I've said it a lot. And like I say, in Unboring Wedding Academy, it is in the sample script that you get and start working off of. After you get the cheer, you say what I told you off the top here essentially is today is a day of tremendous joy and celebration. And at the very same time, we are very mindful of Mammy, who cannot be with us today physically. They are with us in spirit, and we are grateful to them and mindful of them in everything that we do today and in all of these celebrations of joy as they are with us today in spirit. Something like that is all that a couple typically wants. They say anything more than that is too funeral like. And so that's it. I put that in the script along with everything else. Whenever we're done our workshop, I always send the whole script, not the story. Okay, that I'm writing much closer to the wedding, but 4 to 6 weeks before the day, I send the whole script to the couple, the vows and things like I just said, the opening remarks, the closing remarks, including this. And I want them to take a look at it and sign off on it. And that's, like I said, where this couple ultimately, when they read that, they'll decide it's perfect, or some will say that'll be too much. I won't be able to keep it together. Okay, so that is essentially your couple might advise you to do more, maybe lay a flower at a commemorative table. There might be something in your culture that you have seen or that your couple wants to do. And again, just like any unity ritual or anything else, we don't know all the things. There's just no way we can know everything in terms of things they've seen or things they want to do. But ask them uh, who is it? Tell them when it's best to say it right off the top, and tell them you will put that little script, that the wording in the script for them to sign off on. Ask them if they think that's sufficient or if they'd like to do anything else to commemorate the person. And then, like I said, after I say that little piece, we are grateful to them and mindful of them and all the celebration and joy that we are having today. You just take 3 seconds. And then that's where, like I say, we're not compartmentalizing our grief. We have named the fact that we miss this person. We wish they could be here. And then I take a deep breath and say, friends, how did we all end up here today? How did these two people end up meeting and falling in love and choosing to spend the rest of their lives together? Well, I'd like to spend the few minutes I have telling you the story of how Sam and Alex got here today. And then I launch into the story, which may or may not have been written by the Love Story caster, which is inside Unboring Wedding Academy, the tool where you plug in the couple's answers and it writes it for you. Again, the 3 questions, if you want to know how to write their love story, we talked about those in the previous live. Just look for that on my YouTube channel. So that is essentially it. It is 28 minutes after the hour. I'd love to pop into the chat now. Like I say, I have to leave pretty soon, and I know so many of you are super pros, would have lots of great advice. I wonder if you do it similar to me. Sharon, great to see you. My couples really appreciate this mention of loved ones who have passed. It feels so important that we pronounce the names correctly. Oh, yeah, which again is why having this conversation in person is crucial. In fact, my first question when I sit down with couples, and it gets a laugh, is, okay, what's your name? And they're usually a bit surprised, like, what? Because I've said, how you doing? Blah, blah. We sit down, we get a coffee. And I say, listen, that's a bit of a joke, but I want to hear you say your names before we proceed, because I'm going to say your names 100 times. And I made this mistake early on in my career, assuming a name. We had only communicated in email. And then we sat in the planning session, and I never said there. You don't necessarily say, hello there, Alex, shake their hand. It's just a case of like, hi there. We sat down with blah, blah, blah. And then on their wedding day, when she said her vows, when I heard her say her own name, I realized I'd been saying her name wrong the entire time. That was super awkward for me. So that's true of any loved one who has passed. That's true of the couple, which is why it's so important to have that meeting in person. Eva says, you bought the book. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I am honored. That's absolutely awesome. And anybody who wants that book can get it on Amazon in whatever country you are. Suzanne says, had a couple didn't want the deceased mentioned and then change their mind. Yeah, so some couples are going to be waffling on that all the way up to the day. That's totally, totally fine. Lavender Lace says, if they don't want it during the ceremony, perhaps they can put a devotion to their program. Absolutely. There are so many ways to do this. Typically, wedding planners will have this as part of their questionnaire as well. And so that's really great. I know planners cover that off, and it's not in our purview to set up the programs or the tables or anything like that. But most couples are definitely encounter this as part of the planning process, either whether they have a planner or a planning binder or something like that. April says, a couple that I married recently in September chose not to acknowledge their loved ones in the past. They said they didn't want to be sad. Yeah, and this is perfect. I'm not sure when these comments came in. It's before I was doing my talk about these sections or during. But yeah, a lot of you have seen all this kind of thing. And that's where I say, we don't judge these decisions that our couples make. It's their ceremony. We can advise them. Again, might say, well, think of the family members. This might be important to them. But if the couple says, no, will just be a mess, then we do not want to do it. Nina, how do you become certified on boring officiants? You get the Academy course, then you get the Pro course. You complete the challenges that I walk you through in Pro. Things like get a rack card, which kind of looks similar to this, get a reviews and things like that. And then you send them to us. We have a look. And when we see you've got a good review and Google My Business profile and a few things like that, then we just endorse you 100%. We send you badges. We put you on the website. So that's how you do that. You are basically a graduate of Unboring Wedding Academy and Pro, and you can check out unboringwedding.com/certified to see all the people on there like Jane and Ben, people who have done this, and they are super elites. Anne's here from Kansas. Okay, I think I'm catching up here. Ben says, I never leave home without that spreadsheet. Me neither. It's with me all the time. Literally, it's on my spreadsheet app on my phone. So I suppose if I had an emergency and wanted to whip it out and start walking somebody through a wedding workshop, I have it with me. Just make a copy and off you go. Okay, so it's just scrolling down here because it is 32 minutes after the hour, but I love engaging. And I want to see if there's any questions so many good comments. I don't want to get off though without answering any questions. I know sometimes I'm kicking myself because I get off, then I scroll through the comments and I see questions I missed. So if you have a question, put it at the bottom right now. Got a few more minutes before I have to leave and head out, drive an hour and a half to my rehearsal. Diana says, I wanted my mother-in-law mentioned in my ceremony. My officiant was horrible. She messed up and briefly mentioned in the middle of everything. Oh man, I'm so sorry about that. That is rough. And that is why we have these conversations here. I want you guys to be the very best you can be. I know that feeling. It hasn't happened with a loved one who's passed away, but one time years ago, a couple asked me to have a moment where the groom wanted to say some words to. It was a blended family that was coming together, so the groom was going to be the stepdad of the bride, and I just left that out, and it was an awful feeling. They told me after we were supposed to have this thing. Of course, I sent them the script. I assumed that they checked it. They didn't, so they missed it. I missed it. Everybody missed it until after the ceremony. That is a terrible feeling, and so I, of course, have some fail safes now with the spreadsheet and all that stuff, double checking through everything. But this is really, really important, commemorating a loved one. So let's see. Diana, on the bright side, my horrible officiant is what gave me the idea to become one. Hey, silver lining to everything. Like I said, grief and celebration all at the same time. It's just a matter of what we're focusing on the moment. So many good things in the chat here. Sissy says, where do I find the spreadsheet? So I'm trying to remember, Sissy, if you're a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, it is inside it is inside the course for you to use. Anybody, it's part of the resources. The course talks about my flow, my system that I work through with every couple. And so the starting point, stage 1, is the meeting with your couple. So I have provided my spreadsheet that you can just use. Most of the people here who are members are definitely familiar with that tool. And so let's see. Chantal says, hello, I'm new to the officiating world. So excited to learn new things. Awesome. Love that you're here and honored that you're listening to me on a Friday when you could be in a car wash, for example, like Sandra, or, doing both. Uh, and Leo, the rookie fisherman, says, I have a wedding tomorrow. I used the love story beaver. Okay, so this is, hey, Leo. Leo, I want to say, yeah, so I know you emailed me and said, I want this in Spanish because Leo is a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, so he has access to the Love Story Caster, which takes the couple's answers and writes the story for you. But you had to translate the story from Spanish to English and then translate it back to Spanish. Yeah, I suggested to you to go on to Chat GPT and just input the whole story in English. So the Love Story Caster is, I'm realizing you can put a different language in the inputs, but because my prompt that I've created is in English, you can put the answers in Spanish or French, but the story output will be in English. Now, I'm realizing, and I just talked with some developers this past weekend, that if my prompt was in whatever language you wanted, then it would output the story in that language. So it can output the story in a certain language as long as the prompt is in that language. So that means I will work on, I can have as many versions of the Love Story Caster in many languages as I want. I just have to nail the prompt in the native language that we want the outputs to be. So, Leo, you're giving me ideas. I'm working on it. If I could get that prompt in Spanish, then we would have outputs in Spanish. Then, of course, we would have to choose a way to select the language, which I don't think would be too hard. Developers can do anything. So Ben says, if you're not a member of the course, do it. Hey, love that, Ben. And you are such an encourager, and you've been along for the ride for years, and I'm just so grateful. Sissy says, I live for your YouTube videos. We're not a member yet. Hey, Sissy, that's amazing. And I would love for you to join all these incredible members inside. And hey, even come to Vegas if you can at Wedding MBA where I'm speaking. I get to meet so many people, members of this course. We will be hanging out and getting dinner on the Tuesday night. So this is, like I said last week with the Love Story Caster, this is so much more than just, selling courses or transactional. I have come to love the members of Unboring Wedding Academy and Pro. You guys light me up and get me up in the morning. So how long until I'm accepted into the Facebook group? That should happen instantly, Diana. And so let me check on that for sure. A lot of people, you should be accepted the moment I get the notification on Facebook. There might be a reason why that didn't happen. Sometimes you don't provide the same email address that you signed up for the course with. Maybe you accidentally put another one in. Sometimes people want to join Pro when they joined Academy, and sometimes people want to join Academy when they join Pro. There are two groups for the two different course communities, that's for sure. Leo, thank you. I'll keep you updated on tomorrow's wedding. Yeah, all the best. Leo, I know you wanted to crush this. You've been thinking about it. You had two weddings coming up, one this month, one next month. I'm happy to be along for the ride with you. And it was really, really great to see the story that you came up with. And good for you. And Eva's here. Good to see you here. Mi historia de amor. Oh, I think that's a good thing. My love story, right? Is that right? Okay, so Eva's going to help me with the Spanish. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that would be great. Okay, so guys, friends, I have to run, and I'm always super grateful. Again, love being here on a Friday. Next week, I will be here again. That's the plan, with a new question of the week. But hopefully you enjoyed that. Like I said, it was a bit heavier than usual. We're talking about a loved one passing away, but hey, life is such sweet sorrow, or something like that. And parting is such sweet sorrow. But life is a mingling of grief and joy and celebration, especially at a wedding. And so, as was mentioned here from Diana, we really want to serve our couples well and do that and ask them that question, not shy away from it, but do it in a tasteful way that serves them in the way that they want. So thank you so much. Dimples is here. Is Wedding MBA an annual event? It's every November. This will be my third year, of course, interrupted 2 years by COVID. 2019, 2022, 2023, here we come. And If you're a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, you know we're talking about how to meet up and stuff like that. I love meeting so many of you in person there. Thank you so much for joining today. And if you are wanting to come in as a member, unboringweddingacademy.com, that will get you your email invite. And I would love to see you inside with all these other incredible, intrepid, elite, wonderful people who are flooding the chat every week. And I hope you have a great weekend. If you have a wedding, Leonardo and et al., marry on. Have a great week. See you next week. Thanks, everybody.